kind of a crazy story about something that happened with respect to artificial intelligence. Now, I should point out, we've heard stories like this before. Certainly I have, about lawyers who were, using AI to come up with information for court cases they were involved in. And then at the beginning, people don't check. You assume everything AI tells you is true. They found that, of course, it was not. Now, by the way, some of this doesn't have to do with, intentionally coming up with wrong information. But when you accept information that AI spits out, I think we all know better now that you want to double check that information. And obviously, when you're a lawyer bringing this in front of a judge, that would be a good time to make sure that it's all accurate. And it turns out there have been cases where it hasn't been. I think there are a couple of cases where lawyers have actually been disbarred from having done something like this and maybe found to have used it knowing that the information was wrong. But this case in Quebec, this is a bit different. This is the first time I've ever seen a judgment that says the Quebec court upheld the decision against this man, ordered him to pay an additional $5,000 fine over and above what he was originally sentenced with for the improper use of artificial intelligence. Ari Goldkind is a criminal lawyer and legal expert. He is in Toronto, I think, right, Ari?
Good to be with you. I am.
Nice to be with you. So listen, you're aware of this particular case. Now, and by the way, I should point out this whole case from beginning to end lasted over 5 or 6 years before we finally got to the point we're at now. What did you think when you saw this?
So it's a very good question, Aaron, because this is something that's talked about a lot in my business, and I think that there's going to be seismic changes. I think everybody who thinks AI is only coming for blue collar and factory workers are wrong. I think it's coming for the lawyers. I actually think it's coming for the doctors. So I was very interested in the story from the headline. Somebody gets fined $5,000, and just to make this clear to your listeners, for essentially giving a bunch of fake AI cases and citations to the court, okay? That struck me as very interesting because there is a movement now, and I know it's happening in Ontario, that if you're going to use AI, which so many people are using, Aaron, we're really not talking about how many students are using it and how many people writing exams. I mean, ChatGPT is like the new MSN Messenger if you're old enough to know what that is. And it's really something that the courts have become aware of. So what's happening in the courts? The courts have made a decision now that if you're going to use artificial intelligence to write your materials or your submissions, you have to let the court know, okay? And I expect that to be a practice direction. That's a formal notice to the bar and to litigants that you have to let us know. You can't bluff it the way when you write your letters to your boss and use ChatGPT, you obviously don't tell them. The second thing that I thought was really interesting was the $5,000 fine. That caught my attention, and I thought to myself, but wait, there's more. And when you read the facts of the story, you really have a court imposing a $5,000 fine, when that is very rare in criminal court. It's very, very rare that a self-represented accused or any accused gets hit with a fine. As you read the story, as I'm sure you did, you notice that the judge was very critical of this man's behavior. He's essentially calling him somebody that the court can't trust, who has dragged this out, whose word is not their bond. And at the end of basically the reporting on this, you can clearly say that the court is sort of frustrated to wit's end. This is more than AI, and there's this belief that perhaps the AI that was all bad with fake cases, it was not an accident. Many people might have it as an accident, but I think that's the part that jumped out to me, that this was a court saying, nah, this isn't the average guy using ChatGPT. This is somebody trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
Exactly. Let me read just this last part here that you just referenced now. This is the judge's ruling. It says, while the court is sensitive to the fact that Mr. Laprad's intention was to defend himself to the best of his abilities using artificial intelligence, his conduct remains highly reprehensible. And he goes on to say he must bear alone all the, and I'm not sure what this word is, all the opprobrium resulting from quotations hallucinated by artificial intelligence on which he relied to generate his contestation.
I took that, Aaron, as he reaps what he sows. And I can tell you, for most of your listeners who do not move planes, remember, part of the charges here, he's moving planes and inflating planes, not cars, not automobiles, planes. The suggestion is that this is a person who really can't be trusted. Now, I think the broader question to your listenership is, look, what if you're a self-represented accused and you can't afford Ari Goldkind? You can't afford, very good Montreal lawyers. You can't afford a lawyer in Calgary. But you're going into court and using some AI or Chat GPT. First of all, let the court know, okay? Now, this is not legal advice. This is just my sense. Let the court know. I think that's going to become a rule within the next many months or a year. But this is an increasing problem, Aaron, to people representing themselves in court. And
let me stop you. Let me stop you
sure.
for a second to ask
Sure.
why, though. Why do you think it's necessary for the court to know? If I'm citing case law, for example, right, or jurisprudence, what's the difference if I got it from AI or didn't if I checked it? Why does the court have to know?
I'll tell you why. Because there has been a rash of AI, and I don't think artificial intelligence is all that intelligent at times. I think it's the bane of the world, and I don't know why it's not being regulated, Aaron. And I'm a person not in favor of regulation, but this is not going to make the world a better place. What the courts have found is that AI is churning out quotes and citations that are not real and that are not true. And while I certainly think AI at times might do the job of judges, lawyers, maybe it gives better decisions at times because it's, theoretically not privy to human bias and all of that.
Right.
When you send the message to the court that you've used it, when you're a lawyer, Aaron, and I mean this very sincerely, I'm not being glib, there's an assumption that as a member of the bar, you're acting with the utmost of integrity, the utmost of ethics. You're not putting forward a case unless you know what the citation was, who the judges were, that it happened in Canada, and it's not nonsense spit out by a server in the middle of Idaho.
Okay.
So that's the reason that you do it, because it sort of sends a message. But again, so many people, particularly self-represented people, are going to go down this road that I think this is going to be an issue that we'll be talking about much more 6 months from now than we are now, because I think most people, when they have to do a closing submission in a case that they're charged with something, where's the first place they're going to go? Chat GPT.
Yeah. By the way, if I could just read some more here so people understand, it says the documents submitted to the court included 8 instances of non-existent citations, decisions not rendered, references without purpose, and inconsistent conclusions. So you can understand why the court made the decision that it made. It's interesting to point out, Ari, to what you just mentioned. This is not the justice system saying to the average person who either can't afford a lawyer or wants to represent him or herself, it's okay to use it, but you better know what you're doing. Fair?
That's why I thought, yes, and that's why I thought I should have very quickly made the point to your listeners that this isn't a 10 commandments of thou shalt not.
Right.
This was really about the thou that was in front of the court, and the court saying, we're tired of you, Mr. Thou. I made that up. But if you're like a litigant and you're in a custody battle or you have no money or you're charged with something, you can use it with some caution and some judiciousness, but it's not meant to be a substitute, although quite frankly, Aaron, and I'll end my answer here, the future is coming very, very quickly, and people are not going to like it.
Have you had, if I can ask, clients come to you and suggest that they did some preliminary work on AI and look what they found, and what do you think?
Well, that's a great question, and I know you have to go to break soon. I'll give you the answer that might make you chuckle. How many times have you fallen, hurt your knee, scraped a toe, you have a headache, and where do you immediately go? Dr. Google.
Right.
Dr. Google can be right, sometimes it can be wrong. Try being a defense lawyer, telling a client some honest information and then getting back, well, I Googled this, and you're wrong, Mr. Lawyer, who's done this for 25 years. Trust me, Aaron, those aren't fun conversations to have.
There you go, and happening more and more. Ari, appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.